political watchers, it's almost a sense of deja vu. The political discourse in 2018 is sounding in some parts very alike to 2013. And this time it's the BJP on the receiving end. Fuel prices continue to surge while the rupee nosedives. Both of these, often caused by global factors, is at the forefront of the opposition attack on the Modi government. This even as reports emerged that the Prime Minister will be holding a review meet on these issues over the weekend. Maybe some announcements could be made. But do economic issues like fuel prices, the value of the rupee, or even NPAs in the system impact voters? Is the BJP cornered politically on these issues? To talk on this, I'm joined today by Gopal Agarwal, national spokesperson of the Bharatiya Janata Party. Salman Soz, spokesperson of the Congress Party, is joining us as well. And we're also talking with political commentator Neerja Chowdhury. Welcome to all of you. Let me start by asking Mr. Agarwal how much pressure is being felt. There was a Bharat Bandh a few days ago. Over 20 opposition parties came together. A couple of chief ministers have reduced their duties on petrol and diesel. But the government seems resolute to not respond. How long can you afford to do so?
No, actually, we understand that there is a lot of concern with regard to fuel price rises. The central government or the Modi government, our government, is extremely worried that the fuel prices have to be controlled and they have to be checked. But we also understand that it is not in the factors are not within our control, and any action with regard to controlling the fuel prices artificially by reducing excise by the central in itself will be counterproductive to the benefit of the nation. So that thought in itself gives us strength to stand for the decision. And as has been said, that our policy has been that we take economic decision based on economic considerations,
sure,
and not only on political expediency or political issues. So therefore,
You know what's making it tough for the BJP right now, Mr. Agarwal, is that people are pulling out earlier quotes and comments from senior BJP leaders, including Prime Minister Modi, at that time when you all were campaigning before the last general elections, talking exactly about fuel prices and the rupee. So today, when you tell us that, you know, we make economic decisions not based on political consideration, it sounds a little strange, because you were asking the same things that the opposition is asking today in 2013.
No, but whatever may be the question, but if you talk of only political compulsions, then at the present time, our government has been very explicit into resisting those political compulsions, and we hope that we expect that the people of the country are now mature enough to understand that, and ultimately the expenditure on the revenues that the central government gets, that how the quality of expenditure is also for the people of the country to see, whether it is in infrastructure, whether it is in the social security schemes. Over the 4.5 years, we have been able to control the leakages into the government delivery system. We have been able to control corruptions.
Great.
So therefore, our communication, as our Prime Minister is a good communicator.
We're talking about specific factors over here.
The political cost will not be.
Okay, let me come to Salman Soz. Gopal Agarwal is banking on the fact that people have become more mature in the last 5 years, where perhaps high fuel and a falling rupee is not going to be such a big hit for the BJP. Is the opposition confident that these are issues which would sway voters? Because at the end of the day, that's what you're trying to do.
I think Mr. Agarwal is right. I think people of India are pretty smart, and I think what they're seeing is that the Prime Minister and his party made huge promises, and turns out that whatever they were saying earlier is now backfiring on them, because let's face it, they failed on a number of fronts. First let me talk a little bit about the immediate point, which is on fuel prices and the falling rupee. and then I'll give you the broader context. Look, when you look at the policy, it's not just bad politics. This is bad economics. Because what the government has done essentially is that they initially said that we're decontrolling fuel prices, and basically they've re-regulated fuel prices by increasing taxes, excise duties and all that. And now we know that about 11 lakh crores have been garnered by the government over the course of these last 4 years. Now, what does that do? What you're doing is essentially you're taking money from consumers and putting it to the government kitty and saying that the government knows better how to spend your money. And, no matter what anybody says, consumers are the best spenders of their money. So instead of trying to give the money to the consumer so that they could actually go and purchase things and the companies would actually start having higher sales, that would grow the economy, the government actually constrained the economy. So that is bad economics, and that's what they've done. Now, look at the rupee or the fuel prices. Yes, there are international factors at play. They were the same, under the UPA. But under the UPA, whenever I would say that, there are international factors at play, BJP spokespersons and ministers would say, the current ministers would say, no international factors. Mind you, during the UPA, crude prices were at $115 a barrel. Right now, they're at about $70 a barrel. Where is the comparison between what happened during UPA's time and what is happening right now? Now, finally, do these things matter to the public? Absolutely they do, because their costs are going up. If you look at let's look at the rural landscape. An RBI study from earlier this year said that rural real wages, which grew from about 5 to 7% from 2008 to 2013, have actually turned negative under the Modi government. If you hear about rural distress, there's a reason for that. All of these things are playing into that. This is going to have a cascading effect, and this is bad economics and bad politics.
No, I want to keep the focus on the key question I'm asking today. And let me come to Neerja Chowdhury for that. Bad economics, maybe bad politics, but did UPA and did the Congress face this resounding defeat in 2014 because of fuel and the rupee? Or was it because there was an impression there that this was a scam-ridden government which was not able to perform at all? My key question is that, is the BJP really feeling the heat because of factors like NPAs, rupee depreciation and high fuel prices?
Look, I think the UPA was in a slightly different situation, because in UPA 2 it had been losing ground steadily and rapidly because of a series of scams. So the credibility of the government was dented. The leadership was not in charge of things. I think Mrs. Gandhi was I was keeping in different health, and there wasn't the direction in UPA 2 that there was in UPA 1. So when all this happened in 2013, the economic woes and prices went up, it was like the last straw that broke the camel's back. Now for the NDA, it's somewhat different. I think the Prime Minister is very much in control of things, and the fact that they're saying so far they're non-committal about the cut in the excise duties. They may not do it. They may choose their own timing. There's speculation that they might do it just before elections. They will also see how much the people react, whether the unhappiness and the woes of the households turn to anger. So I think it's a very calculated, calibrated strategy that the NDA seems to be adopting. And the other thing, of course, is whether they play deflective politics and turn the attention of the nation to other things. Now, it's very interesting what the Prime Minister is doing. While prices are ultimately what people are going to react to and are already beginning to react. But the Prime Minister yesterday in his samvad with the Anganwadi workers, the frontline functionaries, announced an increase in their salaries the ANM, the Ashas, the helpers, which would amount to about 10,000 crores. Now it's a very good move if you go by normal circumstances of reaching out to people who are actually going to make a difference to change to women's lives and children's lives. But it does mean a burden on the system. But that's also Ayushman, which is going to be rolled out very soon on September 25th, which is offering to poorer families 5 lakh rupees of insurance for hospitalization. Now, all these are going to be big ticket expenses with an eye to the elections that are around the corner. But where does it leave your fiscal deficit? What happens to the NPAs? Where is all this money going to come from? So much will depend also on the extent to which the opposition parties can actually get onto the streets and make it into a hot issue. It's one thing to have a Bharat Bandh, it's one thing for Rahul Gandhi to go and protest outside a petrol pump, but it has to be much bigger mobilization than the opposition has so far shown itself to be capable of.
Another theory is, and Gopal Agarwal, please come in on this, that the bet is the people who are concerned about factors like high fuel prices and the rupee, maybe your urban middle class section, the BJP is no longer only pursuing that vote. And the extra revenues you collect, the government collects by higher excise duties or keeping them high, can be spent in other schemes which can reel in your larger voter base. Is that the bet?
No, I think the big important thing is that our understanding is that the people of the country have now become ready to accept hard decision under PM Modi. He has been taking very strong and hard, determined decisions, and that's what the country wanted. Our economy was in doldrums. It needed some hard-hitting decisions towards some economic considerations alone, and that has been done under whether it was GST or IBC, demonetization, or fighting corruptions, going for mega schemes like Jan Dhan accounts, Swachh Bharat. All this, there is a big change, and there is a strong credibility for Prime Minister Modi, and his sincerity of his effort is also gone down well with the people. Therefore, our strong economic decisions, which may at face of it seem to be unpopulist, but still people are understanding and they are accepting it because the level of credibility of Prime Minister is very high, and they have accepted hard hitting decisions. The second important thing is people have also understood that India needs strong push on the infrastructure side. We need strong push on the inclusive development where remote places, geographical distances, people from the backward areas need head holding, and that can come through resource generation at the government level. Without resources at the government, no infrastructure can come up. Without resources at the government, no social security.
Is there a point at which you link this back to the question I asked, Mr. Agarwal? I'm really hoping you do.
No, I'm telling you, the important thing is that when you say that these benefits only will go to the rural areas and remote areas and Dalit and backward areas, we do not accept this, because there are infrastructure with the quality of life in the connectivity through national highways, through waterways, through industrial corridors, then railways, then air connectivity, 124 airports. All this infrastructure investment are for the middle class. Yeah, so therefore,
so then in that case, Mr. Agarwal, why do you put out, why do you put out a chart, in that case, why do you put out a chart where the number 72 is shown as, a reduction from the number of 56? You know the bar graph I'm talking about, which is doing the rounds on social media. Everyone's wondering what the logic of that is.
There can be,
if you don't care, and if you think that people can, take these hard economic decisions, why even justify with a graph which honestly seems to be some sort of mistake?
Yeah, definitely. If it is an honest mistake, I will accept. Where in the face of it, if there is a mistake, then it is to be accepted, because there is a team, there are people who are doing it, and anywhere there can be mistake. We are not insisting that this is not a mistake. If there is a mistake, accept it. What is the problem? You cannot just by graph, you cannot change the factual issues, but ultimately our whether it was through Bharat Bandh or anything, people have seen the way opposition is working. Their only agenda is oppose Modi tooth and nail, whatever may be the reason. So that is, now they are being rejected. Otherwise, why opposition, this Bharat Bandh failed? No, even their opposition party did not support. There was very little support by the people of the nation.
Okay, let Salman come in.
So I think now the Modi ji has been able to establish
that good economics is good politics.
Look, I mean, I think I congratulate Mr. Agarwal for bringing up things like demonetization, because frankly, his own prime minister, the prime minister or his party colleagues never really talk about demonetization anymore. Not a smart decision. Not a smart initiative. Everybody knows it. They should just keep quiet about it. I would recommend that to Mr. Agarwal. As far as GST is concerned, great idea, terrible implementation. We all know about that. IBC, the bankruptcy code, a welcome idea. Let's hope the implementation works well. But there is a credibility problem in this government. I mean, if you look at your newspapers from today, company executives are now saying that the biggest threat to them over the next 3 years is policy uncertainty. And mind you, they are, they don't say it directly, but I think we all know, we're smart people, we know what they mean. Because this government cannot be trusted fully. They talk about things, they talk about all this progress that's happening. He talks about infrastructure. Let me bring something to his attention. Under the UPA, investments grew at a annual rate of 11%. Under the Modi government, growth has been at 4%. Exports under UPA grew at an average of 14%. Under the UPA, 1.4%. There is no comparison. That is why people are saying, give us our Buradin. You see, the thing is, these people promised a lot, but they had no idea that things would be so difficult. And then they enacted some policy changes that actually made things worse. Now, they can say that we are trying to do good economics because we need resources. If you heard what Mr. Agarwal was saying in terms of infrastructure development, the government has to do this, the government has to do that. What he's suggesting is that the role of the state has to be so big now that maybe they don't want the private sector to do that much. Whereas we know from development kind of literature that there is, any country that wants to really develop and progress, the private sector must be enabled. The private sector has to do well, not the government. The government has to create an enabling environment. So I think they're actually moving back. We want the country to move forward. Now, I know this is not the topic of your discussion. You want to focus on fuel and rupee and all that stuff. But the thing is, they have to then respond. They have to say, why is it this way? I mean, the chart that you're referring to, I think that shows that the BJP is, I think scared. The Prime Minister is beating everybody trying to kind of shore up the rupee. It had almost gone to 73 rupees to the dollar.
Yeah.
And the reason is they're worried that this is ultimately going to feed into a cycle of inflation, which is true. Because if your currency is depreciating, you're likely to face inflationary pressures. If your fuel prices are going up, you're likely to face inflationary pressures. By the way, the deficits that the government had targeted for this current fiscal year, we've already reached about 85% in the first 3 months.
No, but
So I think there are problems. They've not managed the economy well. And this is not just this time. By the way, do not for a moment think that the Prime Minister can go and give a few rupees to people at the end of his term and say, oh, now I really did badly for the first 4.5 years.
Let's be honest, the UPA too tried to do the same thing. They went through the same cycle. One bad bar graph aside, the BJP is responding by trying to plug all holes. every kind of criticism they counter, they're trying to hit back. Will it work or not is a different story. Neerja, I want to come to you on, the key point, because look at the issues that have cropped up over the last few months. With the backdated GDP series, there was a question about who had a higher average GDP. They're talking about, of course, managing petrol prices or rupee prices. These are all very core economic issues. Is this percolating down to a large enough base to make a difference, or is this something that is become a topic of discussion just within a very select group?
I think, we can talk about these macro things that are affecting the economy or will affect the economy. But if I'm an ordinary person, an ordinary housewife, a person on the street, and I go and buy my vegetables, and that hits me. It's very interesting. I went into a mother dairy store the other day, and the person knows me, and I was complaining about this has gone up, this has gone up. So he said, ma'am, you're from the media. Had this happened during the UPA time, to ekdam bawal ho jata, ab tak, the way the prices have shot up. But everything is so silent. And I thought, yeah, absolutely true. Is that, the kind of sound and fury that was created then by the then opposition, the opposition now, that's my point. The opposition now does, they do press conference, they make an issue, but they are not out there mobilizing people in their thousands. And that is what is needed. That's what is going to get the message home. But for some reason, they don't have the organizational muscle, they maybe don't have the money. I don't know what the problem is, but they are not able to do it. And of course, it goes without saying that Mr. Modi is a very lucky Prime Minister. Soon after he took over, the price of crude really sharply dropped.
Yeah.
But that benefit at that time was not passed on to the consumer. So people rightly say now, when the prices go up globally and we have to pay for it, we didn't get the benefit when the prices slumped. And that they have a point there. So whether it should come under GST, which is another suggestion being made, but as far as the ordinary person is concerned, unless the government can do something, prices is something that's going to hit everybody hard, and I think may have a bearing on the electoral choices of people if push comes to shove. I don't think at the moment that we've reached that anger point, but this is the one area. I remember UPA corruption plus prices was the undoing of UPA.
Gopal Agarwal wants to come in. Gopal, quick comment from you.
I accept when you said that there are business cycles businesses move in a cycle. There are good times, there are bad times, even global cycles are there in the economic conditions. There are global factors which affect domestic economy, but the leadership depends on domestic leadership depends on how you react or how you act into those situations. There are adverse situations. How do you act into that situation? That determines your leadership quality, and that is the difference. The earlier UPA government, there were adverse situations. They left their focus from the macroeconomic considerations to populist measures.
No, right now you're reacting.
We are focusing on controlling current account deficit, fiscal deficit, inflation control, FDI, foreign exchange reserves. We could have just given away foreign exchange reserves and sold foreign exchange and bought down the dollar, but the government is not going for those measures. That shows that there is a determined leadership which can tackle adverse situations.
No, absolutely.
And Neerja ji and yourself also accepted.
All right.
That's the important thing of
fine, but I must
economics
say,
versus politics.
No, I must say that a bare minimum decent economic plan is a basic requirement from any government. I'm glad if you say this government is doing it.
Yes.
Not to be lauded, but that's what every government at the very basics needs to do. Anyway, Salman Soz wanted to quickly come in. Yes, Salman.
Yes, we had the global financial crisis to contend with. They had the sharpest drop in crude prices to contend with. There is no comparison between the crises that we have faced. They had a great time. They were lucky, as Neerja ji said. we had a tough time. Despite that, under UPA 2, the much maligned UPA 2, the growth rates turned out to be higher than the growth rates of the Modi government's Achhe Din, the transforming India, the new India that Modi ji wanted us to have. So there is no comparison. I think there is perhaps the bench strength of the BJP is not that great. They've not managed things well. They had a great opportunity to truly transform this economy. Unfortunately, they've squandered that chance, and I think they're going to pay heavily at the ballot box.
All right, that's what the opposition is harping on. But of course, interesting point from Neerja Chowdhury that says that the focus on such issues needs to be more consistent and include ground mobilization. Can the government right now ignore concerns over the twin issues of rising fuel and a dropping rupee for much longer? We'll have to see.